So,
Hel- Hey everyone, welcome to the Afterburners. The
what's up,
Afterburners
people?
is a little side show that us Afterthoughts put together. If not all four of us can show up for a given episode. These will be more sporadic and will also come out if we need to skip a regular episode. Uh, We already have a few of these done, but that was before we came up with it being Afterburners. So even though we introduce ourselves as the Afterthoughts, we still are, but those episodes will be Afterburners, but they'll be labeled as such, and from here on out, they should all be introed as Afterburners. We don't really have a given topic. This is more of just a free shoot in the wind type of talk. So Alex and I are just going to converse, and you guys are more than free to listen.
Yeah, and it's going to be kind of loose format, I think, from what I understand. So, yeah, we'll maybe just kind of pick a topic here or there and go with it. If we want to switch over to something else, that sounds great too. So, yeah, this is just kind of a smaller format if we don't have the full group. Kind of fun if it's just one or two, maybe three people. But of course, we want to see all the four people.
Right.
But sometimes life happens; we can't do that. So here we go with these afterburners. And let us know if you're enjoying these or if you enjoy more of the all. You'd rather have all people, or you really enjoy the afterburnings. And yeah. Anyway, input is greatly appreciated. You can also email me if you'd like. Try not to spam. My email is snazzyyogi@gmail.com. Again, that's snazzyyogi@gmail.com. There's 2 Y's in there, I believe. So we can
As
get right into it.
always, that email will be
Yeah.
linked in the description. So
Yeah.
you should be able to just click on that and send an email.
Right.
Anyway,
So,
Alex,
you want me to start it off?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Bring something
All
to the table.
right. So I've been thinking a lot about thermodynamics of the universe. So I have a question for you. Do you typically believe in entropy? Do you think maybe one day the heat death of the universe could happen or will happen within the given amount of time of a lot of time?
Well, yeah, that's right. I mean, given infinite time, almost everything and anything can and will happen. Uh, I think after enough time, unless some other death of the universe occurs, that is what we're heading towards. Is just heat death, because I mean that's just from what we're seeing, that's just what's gonna happen.
hmm And again, it's about the laws of thermodynamics,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's talking about entropy and how you have a place of order eventually becoming disorderly or disperse. So you have structure becoming non-structure or diffuse, chaotic. So yeah, um, I guess the notion is, eventually. The universe over a ridiculous amount of time will stagnate and become evenly dispersed, as they would say.
Alex, what I believe this relates to the entropy, but you know that whole like the ball on those like two hills, and it's gonna sit in the dip of the one hill because that's the
Mhm.
lowest energy. But something could happen to push this over this little edge to then hit a new lower um
Mhm.
uh lower energy. I just said it but lost the word. You know what I mean? Uh,
Uh, sure.
like, well, what would happen if that were to happen with our universe? Like, we just automatically enter a new lower state of energy.
Are you saying like a rebound energy?
The lowest point of energy is referred to as the ground state of a system, which is the state with the minimum possible energy, like an atom in its lowest energy level.
Okay.
Yes. And then when a system gains energy, it moves to a higher energy level called an excited state, which makes sense.
Right.
Then in quantum mechanics, the ground state is a fundamental concept, and the idea of lowest energy is often referred to the concept of a vacuum state. That's all AI stuff, so take all that with a grain of salt.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about here is like you're going from places of energy and relatively high energy, and you're becoming more diffuse and eventually coming to a lower energy state through time. So transformation happens. You can transfer energy into transform it into different kinds and types.
Right.
But you know, eventually you're going to get, I think, pure energy is the substrate.
Right.
So mass, as we know, E equals mc squared.
Yeah.
Mass times the speed of light and speed of light squared, which is really large number. So you can you know, you can rearrange the problem to solve for mass rather than energy. So you can see how much energy is within mass. If you want to find out how much energy is within mass, you can solve for that. So it's kind of cool, and you can realize, wow, there's a lot of energy inside of this compact mass stuff. Isn't that interesting, right? And that's where nuclear physics comes into play.
And all that fun stuff. For those listening that don't really understand this whole low energy concept, imagine you have a hot cup of tea or coffee. That's going to go through a process called thermal equilibrium, in which it's going to want to match the temperature of the room. That's why it cools down. It's because it's trying to find a lower state of energy to sit in.
Right.
And as Alex was
equilibrium,
saying, as energy can change into different states, like kinetic to electric energy, for example, or mechanical into kinetic, there is never going to be a 100% energy conversion rate, and some energy will be lost, usually through heat. I think.
Very good. Yeah.
Just for those that are having a bit of a hard time understanding what we're talking about, that should help you.
Yeah, it can definitely be easy to miss, and I think taking it slow and and putting it into terms that, you know, help the layman just as each other, you know, to have a better understanding of it all. Because I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get to the truth. We're trying to get to better understanding, clear thoughts, you know, clear communication. So if we know what we're talking about, we can be on the same page about stuff, and it's quite wonderful when that happens. But it sucks when it doesn't.
Just look up James Webb Telescope. It found this rogue exoplanet. It's being described as like a Jupiter without a sun. And then it also got these sparking galaxy blazes with star formation and new James Webb Telescope capture. Dude, that looks so pretty.
Yeah. I mean, I really love a lot of the James Webb's new pictures. Very, you know, instrumental in our discovery and understanding of the universe. Yeah.
Nothing is what we thought. The James Webb Telescope confirms there was an error in the way of something. Reddit. Top comment. I hope that in the new correct version of the universe, I don't still work at RB. That's good. Yeah. But that rogue planet's really cool looking. Just out there. An artist's conception of the What? Looks like it was made by AI. It's called Simp 0136. Why is it called Simp?
The Simp planet, yeah.
What are you, Simp 0136?
Is it SMP or
It's SIMP. It is literally
Oh,
simp.
SIMP.
It is
Wow.
literally simp.
That's funny. I know I've heard SMP before, but I
Yeah,
didn't know
no,
that.
but that's just how they name stars. They're usually named
Mhm.
based on location in the
Right,
universe where they're found.
right. The simp
So
location, apparently.
the simp, the simp. Hang on, I'm gonna look up
Whoever was naming that star system was like, haha, a smile behind his face.
a cosmic orphan. Dude, 13 times the mass of Jupiter.
That's
About the
massive.
same size as Jupiter. A day on that planet only lasts 2.4 Earth hours. It's located 20 light years away. Discovered in 2003. It's possible that it's a brown dwarf.
Mm,
It
got it.
just didn't gather enough mass to trigger nuclear fission. Fusion.
Yeah.
Why you calling him simpleton, eh? Why we doing this? What'd he do? He's just all by himself. He's just a chill guy. I think rogue planets are really cool.
Yeah.
I just realized my girlfriend left me. That was some cool space stuff.
Yeah.
I do want to move on
Astrophysics.
though. Even though I'm not
Sure.
like super big into it, and we plan on having an episode with my future brother-in-law on this whole
Sure, yeah.
concept. But like philosophy, I know that you
Mm-hmm.
have a little bit of like beliefs in philosophy, but like
Mm-hmm.
particularly like what philosophical things do you like the most, I guess?
Philosophical things,
Yeah,
yeah.
like for me, I'm really
Uh,
into like the philosophy of like because like Riley, he's just really smart with it, and he was explaining like these philosophical arguments that argues the case for a higher power being, a god of sorts, the
mm,
monotheistic religions, and I thought that was really cool.
right, right. Well, since you're curious about my philosophies, I have always kind of gravitated for yoga. I mean, it's been I've been doing yoga for like almost 4 years now.
Now,
Uh,
real quick, is there a difference? Like, is yoga yoga, or is there like yoga where you're doing stretch exercises and yoga where it's more of a philosophical, uh, like physical
there's a
philosophy in
lot
a
of
way?
elements. Yeah, so it's a doctrine, so it's a practice, right? But it's also a philosophy.
Okay.
It's both. It's both. Yeah.
I mean,
So
isn't that a lot of philosophies a way of life?
yeah, but I guess in another way, it kind of brings forward the dynamic of the body, right? So it really gives emphasis to the body itself, right? And
Right, because one of the things that some yoga things do is you do this yoga to align your inner chakras, and
well, what it really
whatever it
means,
is that you believe that's in you, key
wh-
and
what
magic energy. I don't know. We don't
yoga
know.
what yoga is really supposed to be about, and I think that gets misconceived, is it means union. It means the uniting of your mind and your body. So in life, right, we can become misaligned with how we feel and what we think. So that whole idea or notion is
Oh.
is trying to realign the body and the mind and the spirit and the soul to all be in alignment with each other, right? So it's more so the
Yeah,
union
it's
of the
a
self,
Hindu spiritual and
right?
ascetic discipline. Ascetic, hang on, characterized by the practice of severe self-discipline, abstination, all forms of indulgence. Right. I
And I'm
forget
still,
words sometimes.
it's all good. But the basic notion is that, we are becoming more of ourselves. So more to actually who we are, living with intention, living authentically living in a, you know, within our bodies and happily within our bodies, right?
Right.
So it's like it's accepting reality for what it is, even if it sucks, you know, even if it's like, oh, this is sucky. It's still, regardless, you're accepting, you're saying, okay, well, it's happening, right?
That
So I'm
reminds
just
me of a
gonna
good old man named Sisyphus.
right, right.
That is
So
literally what Sisyphus' story is about. You know, he
right.
is basically forced to push this boulder up this hill
Hmm.
for like all of eternity,
Hmm.
and no matter
Yeah.
how close he gets it, he always manages to lose his hand on it, and it rolls all the way back down. And at first,
Right.
he's very frustrated with this, but after a while, he learns to accept it and to enjoy
Hmm.
it. Like,
Yeah. One must
why do you want to
imagine
be
Sisyphus
miserable this
happy.
whole time? Be happy
Right.
with, hey, I'm able to do something,
Hmm.
you know?
Right. Yeah. But I really enjoy yoga because, well, it's good. It's healthy. It keeps
Mm-hmm.
you healthy. It keeps you limber. You know, it's good for you. Um, but there's an element of that esoteric side if you're willing to get into it. You know, but it's you know, it's a journey in its own right. So
So, with these ascetic, is it ascetic?
Ascetic.
Ascetic, yeah, I
you're
was saying it right.
okay.
Ascetic.
So like
Yeah,
the metaphysics,
yeah, yeah.
right?
No, no.
It's talking about
What you were saying? The ascetic adjective
uh-huh.
or noun, basically a person who practices severe self-discipline and abstination from indulgences in life.
Yeah, I mean, I
Which could be
suppose
anything from consuming too
there's a
many
doctrine, you know.
sweets to watching porn.
Right. Yeah,
But
there's certain doctrines. Yeah.
so the monks are very big into that. So do monks seem to practice yoga a lot, although it may be a different branch or form of it depending on their uh, outlook and beliefs?
Yeah, so depending on the monk you're talking to, you know, they might have a different philosophy, but
Because you know
essentially,
there's Buddhist monks. It's just that
right,
yoga is a Hin,
Hindu, yeah,
a
it's a Hindu
Hinduian
philosophy.
Hinduan.
It's a Hindu philosophy.
It's just Hindu.
I think it's Hindu.
Okay, so I'm just racist. Cool.
It's okay.
I apologize. I apologize for
Indian
my
Indian philosophy, yeah, yeah.
for my
Hindu.
arrogance and lack of knowledge for that.
It's all good. It's all good. There's a lot of stuff in the Indian
It's just in most
culture.
other cultures, you know, it's usually an in or a ease, like
Right, right.
Vietnamese or American. So,
Sure.
but yeah, no, I think it is Hindu because yeah, I've never heard of like Hinduian or Hindun. I don't know.
Indian.
Hindun. Are you one of those Hindun people?
Do not make fun of our philosophy. We are
Don't
not
do
Indian.
that, Alex. Don't do that.
We are not
No,
Indian.
no, don't do that. Trying to get us canceled here. Oh, jeez.
Anyway, but yeah, like there's a lot to know, right? And then also I personally like to add the Taoist philosophy to a lot of other philosophy because in Taoism or in the Tao, it can be almost integrated into any other religion. So in that sense, it's very global, which is kind of cool.
Tao Te Ching, right?
I believe so. You know, classical Buddhist philosophy,
Oh,
or
yeah.
you
I
know,
own
the way
that.
of the Tao.
I do highly suggest uh uh Tao Te Ching, I think it's called. Let me make sure that's correct. Tao Te Ching, and I believe it was done by Lao Tzu. You can get it on Amazon for like $15. It's 8 something and 7 delivery, or you can go to Barnes and Noble and pick it up for about 12 or something. I think I got it for. But it's 81 really small chapters. I think the longest one is like 3 paragraphs. Although it's definitely more in kind of like a poem format, if that makes sense. But they're very just cool little teachings, and it translates to the way of life. And Lao Tzu was a very prominent Eastern philosopher, kind of up there with Sun Tzu and Confucius. Epic Rap Battles of History. Let's go. Here's one. I'll just read the first one. Apparently you can find it for free. But the Tao, which is the way you live, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Yet, mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. This source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. Poop fetish, it's a subgenre of comedy. We're here to make you think gross things and to have these vivid imagery, and takes place in England. That's a lot of fun. But sorry, tangent. I'm filled with them. But yeah,
Pretty
Tao Te
intense,
Ching.
bro.
I do recommend. Anyway, go get back to your Taoism. I'm sorry.
I'm
I
just
love
like,
you,
oh
Alex.
my gosh, that's
Yeah.
intense. Anyway,
I can just our viewers just skip.
yeah.
What the hell is this guy talking about?
So yeah, I mean, I think. Well, let me ask you another philosophical question, my friend.
Go for it. I'll answer to
Have
the
you
best of my
ever
ability.
have you ever heard of the other old story? I think it's an old Indian, American Indian proverb. Um, I think it was like there are two wolves that live in each person, right?
Inside
And
of
then
you,
you
there are
can
two wolves.
inside of you there are two wolves, and you can choose to feed one wolf or the other, and one represents the good, and the other
A white
represents the
wolf
bad.
and a black wolf.
Right. Yeah, you've heard of that one before, right?
Yes, yeah. Or at least I'm aware with like the teaching of it.
Mm. Would you say it may be like fair to interpret these two wolves as maybe like, I don't know, like yin and yang? Would that just be a stretch, or would that be wild?
I think that is like what it is supposed to be. Yeah.
Like a similarity in the metaphor.
Yeah, like I think it's supposed to be more of just like a different way of looking at it, but meaning the same thing.
Well, if you begin to believe, like genuinely believe, that there lives within each person this yin and yang stuff, energy, right? Well, then what?
Everyone has their own ideas of good and bad, and what is really good and what is really bad.
Sure.
No matter how different or similar those might be.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So again,
I definitely
you're
think
talking
that,
about the interpreter,
yeah, because
whoever's interpreting.
Because everyone has desires. Nobody is perfect. Okay, like the most closest to perfect we got was maybe, geez, I don't even know. Maybe Honest Lincoln, maybe Mother Teresa. Even though some people think her whole thing was just kind of a scam to take money, but to each their own belief on whatever.
Yeah, you're saying reaching true sainthood is
right,
quite unreachable.
Right, definitely. I mean, because like to be anointed of a saint, you have to do like a lot of stuff. You have to be like recognize. Same with like being called, getting the name of Sir. For example, the person who plays Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings and the person who played Dumbledore in the Harry Potter, both of those, just with how influential they were with film and stuff, they both got anointed as Sir. A saint is a person who is recognized as having an exceptional degree of holiness, likeness, or closeness to God. All over, however, I do not like the term likeness for... You don't want to be God, but you want to be like him.
Well, I mean, isn't every human a reflection of God's image, right?
Yes. Although, I believe that God had monkeys evolve into humans, so God may be monkey.
Okay, but regardless, the image of a human, masculine or feminine, is the image of God, right?
Yes. God transcends all of our concepts of time, gender, all of that. So yeah, just in terms the human species, no race is involved, no gender is involved, none of that is involved, because God is just that is a picture, just a small little snapshot.
So my
God
friend,
is.
where does the corruption come?
The corruption is just sin is inherent to all people. Sin just being, desire, the wanting to do dark things, to indulge in your selfish ways. There's definitely a way to control it. It's perfectly fine to have, these thoughts of these fantasies, like I want to do this, I want to do that. That's fine. It's just knowing when and when not to act on these desires, and whether or not these indulgences affect you positively or negatively. So, to kind of answer your question, it's like, no, don't slip, come on, come back. That's inside each person. So I do believe that inside each person that there is like this balance going on of good and evil. That's what I'm trying to get to. Sorry, I kind of took a detour.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. All right, great, good
Yeah,
job
sorry,
on
I kind of had to
recognizing
go
that.
a roundabout way, kind of explain to myself why I see it that way, so that way I could answer you
Sure,
clearly.
sure. Of
Okay.
course, interpreting is all based on the interpreter, right? But regardless, we as the individual determine, hey, I think that's cool, I think that's good, or hey, I think that's bad,
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a collection of like thoughts and ideas we have about stuff. Um, yeah. Um, so in some people, we must realize, hey, some people have more of this goodness within them. We can kind of sense that. We interpret the other person. We, the interpreter, view other people as, oh, hey, they kind of give off a good vibe, or hey, they kind of give off like not a good vibe, right? So
Right.
so we can make a
Vibe checks.
determination about a person's whole, right? But again, it's not a full interpretation because we're not them.
Right.
It's more of like a guess,
Yeah,
it's more like
that's why it's called a vibe check.
right. Yeah.
You're checking their vibe. You're seeing if it's good or bad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in ways,
Good
yes.
juju or some bad mumbo bumbo,
Right, right. So now it's not saying they'll always be this good or this bad, but generally speaking, we have made a general determination about
Right.
the way they act, right? And people can generally they can choose, hey, I'm going to choose to be a good person, I'm going to choose to do good, stay away from that bad
And
stuff.
I'm not saying that this
And
is the case for everything, but you know how
mhm,
I'm a big believer in the whole idea of conditioning. Do you think, depending on backgrounds and how they were raised, how they were conditioned, can influence these good
Almost
or bad?
certainly.
Yeah, because I mean, like,
Behavior is a huge part.
yeah, like in the
Behavior
other
is
day, in our boys' chat, I sent that one thing about the whole like fatherlessness and crime rates, because I'm kind of against the whole. I have 3 kids, but I don't need no man, and it's like, the numbers disagree, but all right. I mean, you do you. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, but I do have an opinion. Because, like, I'll just list one of the factoids. 80% of violent rapists did not have a father. Because, I mean, of course, there are going to be people that do come from loving families and households. Not saying if there is no father in the household that is not a loving family. And when I talking about these single moms, I'm talking about the ones that literally ditch their boyfriend or spouse or whatever, literally just because they don't need no man or because they sleep around and cheat all the time. Like if the husband dies, like that's an understandable like thing. Not trying to offend a whole group or anything. It's just there's some parts of it that I don't like, but there are parts of it where it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense. He was abusive or he died.
Yeah, I think in general we have to meet
Because
people with a certain
yeah.
level of understanding. I think we have to just like meet people where they are. We have to like take in anytime we meet someone new, of course.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get at is like I do think like conditioning has a lot to do with how these people kind of turn out. I mean,
behavioral
it's monkey
training
see,
is
monkey do.
right. Absolutely. Now,
Whatever.
does that mean okay, I have no choice, right? No, it doesn't mean I have no choice. It
Well,
means my choices are influenced. My choices are influenced by my past, right?
okay. You brought up
So,
choice. Let me ask,
freedom of
what are
will.
what are your thoughts on free will? Do you think it's a thing we have, or are you one of those in my opinion, idiot who thinks that everything is already predetermined? Like, oh yeah, you made that choice, but that was already what you were going to choose anyway. And like, I understand the brain will make the choice before you consciously have that choice, but it's still a choice, right?
It's a tricky situation. I would say we do have choice, freedom of will as
Yeah,
people.
because like it's like, okay, I have free will. With this free will, if I wanted to, I could go out there, grab a knife, and stab someone. But I'm not going to do that. And that's what I feel like to be a choice, because like that's what free will is. Free will allows you to do what you want to do. If I want to go somewhere, I'm going to make that choice. It's not like the universe has gone, you need to go to South Haven, so you're going to go to South Haven. It's like, what? That makes no sense to me, at least. And people are probably going to put in the comments their argument for it. I'm not going to bother reading it because it's stupid. Every argument I've heard, because there's this guy at Walmart who was like going like, yeah, you don't actually have a choice. And everything he was talking about, I'm just like you're contradicting yourself sometimes. Okay, it's like flat Earth. You're cherry picking, and as soon as we bring up a contradiction, you go, well, when you look at it this way, which is just a different lens. You can't switch from rose to blue and be talking about the same thing. No, that's now a different perspective, a different idea, all on its own.
Well, here's another thing I want to bring up when we're talking about freedom of will and choice. I think this also ties into, essentially the essence of, are we responsible for our actions, right?
Right, because
Now, if
it
you're a
that's
believer
another
in
thing.
God,
Yeah, because
yeah,
if
then
free
it's
will
like,
is an illusion, then there should be no you go to jail because
yeah, it's not your fault
yeah,
because you
it's
were
the
brought up a
universe. That's
certain
just
way.
what the
Yeah,
universe did.
right.
It's a dumb argument, in my
Right, you're
opinion.
justifying behavior for
Right, exactly.
essentially,
It's the exact same argument that those idiots use when they go, "It's not my fault because I'm a Scorpio." It is your fault. Take responsibility for your shitty actions and behavior instead of pushing it onto something so you don't have to feel that guilty. Like, get over your
right.
fucking self. That's
Yeah, you're
that's
essentially
honestly what it comes
saying
down to. You're
you're
avoiding responsibility for your poor
right,
actions. You're
right. You're
okay with
essentially
being a
saying,
shitty person because you have this stupid lame excuse to do so. I'm
right.
getting mad,
Yeah.
man. These
Right.
people
Yeah,
make
no,
me
I
so
get it.
mad.
I get
Take
it because again,
responsibility. Take accountability.
right, because then your choices, you and me, we believe our choices are meaningful and we are choosing them, right?
Yeah.
They're not choices that are based on, oh, I just heard that, It's like, no, I've thought about these things
Mm-hmm.
and I choose to be this way because I've thought about it. As opposed to, oh, I'm just gonna regurgitate what I've heard, I think, blah blah blah, It's like I'm not all, in that type of just reactionary being. I'm living unconsciously, right? Truly I'm not truly having any sort of interaction with the stuff that I learn. It's more like I memorize stuff and I regurgitate this stuff, right?
Right.
Now if I'm interacting with it, it becomes part of me, right? Because I make decisions about this memory. I analyze it. I pick it apart and I'm saying, do these fit together? Do I align with this framework? Does this make sense to me? And you kind of go through it, and then you you give it your own reflection of the knowledge that you've learned, right? Your own interpretation, right? And that becomes um your willing spoken truth,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And that's what makes it special about when you speak, because otherwise you're just regurgitating information, and then you're just at that point you're just a recorder. I mean, anybody can pick up or buy a memory chip and an audio recording device, right? But it takes certain intelligence to be able to interpret that data in a meaningful way and almost artistically regurgitate that in a way that you've manipulated. It shows that you've had your own input, and it gives you character, and it's also a choice. You can choose to do it this way, or you can choose to not do it this way. So it's all about how you interpret it, I think.
Now,
If that all makes sense.
I don't think free will is like 100% the case in all aspects because uh like I said, conditioning, like social conditioning, it is just evolutionary beneficial for the average human to want to fit in with the in crowd, if that makes sense.
The normative,
Yes.
yeah.
The whole
To be part of the tribe, yeah.
yeah, you are just going to more than likely conform, and that can just be on a subconscious level, to conform into this, and then there's also a bunch of conditioning that shapes you into the person that you are, that then influences this type of free will with your choices, because now you have
Mhm.
these new ideas, or different perspectives on the same thing.
I will say here, to add on to that, I think some conditioning is good and some conditioning is not good at all.
Oh yeah.
So like there's beneficial conditioning and there's
Oh,
non-beneficial,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely. I definitely agree. I definitely think there's definitely more bad conditioning than good
Yeah,
conditioning, just because there's
right.
so much availability to bad doorways out there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, which is why I think when it comes down to like the free choice,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, you can be horribly conditioned, but there, it's going to be hard, but you should still have that choice to not do maybe what your brain's telling you to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I'm a big believer in intention. I think we can be willful in our action, but I think also we can act unconsciously. Sometimes we don't have time to act consciously. We just have to react, because things in life are quick and fast. So, and other times we do have more time to be moving towards a specific conscious action. Um, but I think if we fail to recognize or develop consciousness or conscious action, we can just kind of be reacting to life. I think that can happen if we're sort of in this fugue state of living. You have to sort of probe out there and yeah, I guess interact more, um, and embrace the um, emotional side of life. Maybe we get caught up in our minds, I think, and in our minds we can think a lot of complex or cool certain things, but if we can't exit the mind, it can be a rough place to be. I want to get into a little bit of something called bias here, because you and me, we know,
Oh,
it's
bias.
like, there's these
Oh,
kind
I
of
love bias.
biases in as being human, and like it's so easy, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
so easy to become biased by stuff, right? It's our natural inclination as people. Um, and actually, to be unbiased is one of the most coolest things you can ever strive to be more of as a human. You can never, I don't think you can ever truly be purely unbiased, right?
Oh,
But you can try
definitely.
to get closer. You can try to get
Mm-hmm.
closer, right?
Uh,
But
I. What do you think the biggest type of bias there is prevalent?
oh wow, that's a big question. Um,
I have an answer, but I'll have you answer first.
people feel very deep emotions about family. They have very, very deep emotions with family and very deep emotions with father or mother figures. Um, I think generally speaking, religion is a topic of great bias, because a lot of people are questioning these days. A lot of people still believe in the old ways, and you got a lot of people believing and a lot of people questioning and not believing. So there's a big bias there already. Um, how about you? What do you think, if there's any specific biases that stand out, biases?
Uh, for me,
Right.
confirmation bias.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Echo
Yeah.
chambers are big right now, man.
Oh
Echo
yeah. Oh
chambers
yeah.
are big.
Mm-hmm.
And those are bad.
Yeah.
I had a I don't know how like enriching you could call this discussion. I found it enriching because it was kind of asking me questions, but I was having a really deep conversation with
Okay.
Meta's AI about
Cool.
bias and stuff in the world, and like, man, we'll have to go through it sometime, just you and me, Alex. It's
Sure.
it's it's
Yeah.
it's way too long for an Afterburners episode.
Yeah, I
Uh,
gotcha. No, it's all
but yeah,
good.
for those of you that don't know, confirmation bias is when you seek information that strengthens your already core belief in something. But I'm pretty sure there's debate on how many different types of bias there is, but
Mhm.
just off a quick search, there are 7 types of unconscious bias, and this is from a workplace thing from Washington Country. Washington County or .gov. 7 types of unconscious bias. 1, confirmation bias. Confirmation bias describes when you subconsciously look for evidence to confirm your already biased thinking without considering anything that might debunk it. This solidifies your stance on subjects when it may not be based in truth. There's recency bias. For an example, an employee delivered a stellar presentation last week despite underperforming the rest of the year. You might still rank them above another stronger employee. Recent experience impacts your thoughts. Affinity bias. Affinity means like oneself, the same. When you see traits in others that remind you of yourself, you are more likely to treat that person better than someone else who does not share those common attributes or interest with you. You can see that very commonly on Twitter.
Right. Yeah.
Yep, because it's an echo chamber, and one person that disagrees, everyone piles on and wants to kill them. So loving. Yep. Such a loving group there on Twitter. Gender bias. That one's easy. You just should treat men better than women. You know, everyone knows that men are. That's a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke. That's an example of gender bias.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna get canceled so hard. Oh
yeah. He hates women. Get him.
Jeez.
I don't.
He's not a Swiftie.
The halo or horns effect refers to something either positive, a halo, or negative, horns, that sticks out in your mind about someone for the long run. So kind of like that first impression. Do they got a halo or do they got horns? Just based off of that. Idiosyncratic radar effect. This bias effect comes from judging others' performance based on your own beliefs of what makes good or bad performance. In other words, your unique perspective of what constitutes high skill, how much of the skill you think you have, how tough you generally grade others, etc., influences your measurements of others. According to Harvard Business Review, 61% of all performance review data collected is tainted by this effect.
Oh, wow.
Wow. And then stereotype bias, which is just the reason why people are racist.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because they got a stereotype basis and can't understand that people are different. And that,
I mean, really,
race is just pigmentation given to you through many generations of evolution.
Isn't it silly that I almost think it's silly that we have all these distinctions or classifications for things and things and things, and we're like, oh, that thing's different. Oh, that's bad. Like, that's so dumb. That like.
But then again, I mean, with there actually being no inherent authority, unless you believe in a higher power or some sort of being or whatever, that the universe, whatever, because, we have laws, but we can't actually confirm 100% if those laws are good or bad.
It's
I mean,
right?
Murder is wrong, but how do we know that as a fact?
It's a curious question.
Because,
how do we
I mean...
how do we know stuff? Brian, how do we know stuff?
How do we know stuff? Bro, I don't even know. I don't know how we know stuff. You know what? I'm going to ask. How do we know stuff? How do we know things? People know things through a variety of methods, including perception, reason, memory, and testimony. Bro, that's dumb. Yeah. Oh, epistemology. Yeah, that we should just save that for Riley, honestly. He's big into that.
Sounds good. Sounds good. But it's it's still like delving deeper. What
Whoa,
is
whoa, whoa, whoa,
knowing?
whoa, whoa, whoa. There are several different ways to know what we know, authority being one of them. Nah. Nope. I mean, the
I
only
don't know.
authority I believe in is a higher power, and that's it. Other than
Mhm.
that, there's no one else who has authority over me. I have problems with authority, man. I'm a bad
Here's
boy.
another cool here's another cool thought is that if you are a believer in traditional Christianity, you can take the knowledge of good and evil. You can say it's an inherent truth to all people that are born
Mm-hmm.
that they have this some sort of inherent knowledge of good and evil within them.
Yeah,
Whether you believe that or not is up to you. But if you are a
right.
traditional Christian,
Like
you
in the
can take that stance.
Jewish or Christian beliefs, God gave the 10 Commandments, which are, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not have no gods above me.
Hmm.
Uh, like those, because those were given by people of that belief, an authority, a higher power, something that is more knowledgeable, that can give direction and guidance. Whether you believe this God is good or bad, that's just another can of worms itself. But just based on
Yeah.
that, because people of that belief see that God as the authority figure, as the, hey, that's the guy we got to listen to. That's
Hmm.
why a lot of these rules and laws we have, a lot of them do stem from it. And yet people want separation of religion and state.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to point out is that I would say if you're trying to get to the essence of what knowledge does, like how it interacts with stuff, I would say that the nature of knowledge and how it interacts is that it takes something and it splits it, all right? Through analysis, right? It takes it and it splits it and it classifies what it's creating a boundary around. It's creating boundary around a given thing, an idea or a notion, and it's classifying it into a distinct quality, right? So it's taking stuff and it separates stuff, and it's saying, "Hey, this is that, and this is that." All right. So it's the nature of knowledge is creating distinctions and boundaries around stuff so that we know what stuff is, the nature of how it interacts. Yeah. So,
Apparently, like, murder was first seen to be illegal from the Sumerian code.
hmm,
The code of Ur-Nammu. Uh, so King Ur-Nammu, uh, basically they were written during his reign. But basically it said if a person kills, then they should be killed.
uh,
Yeah.
that kind of goes to the
Very similar to the passage from the Bible, Exodus 21:23, which is an eye for an eye.
right. Do not do unto others what
Revenge.
you would not do unto yourself, essentially. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really important one because again, that's saying I recognize the holiness of the body. I recognize that if I do something to another in a reflection, I'm doing it back to myself as well. Like there's actions for consequences, essentially. So
As there should be. Cause and effect.
yeah, cause and effect. Yeah.
I mean, Newton's right. Even in everything should have an
Yeah.
equal and opposite reaction.
You could also chalk it up to karma and say, hey, he got his karma. So he put in bad stuff into the world and he got reflected back bad stuff, you know?
I do think karma is a thing that's out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of mystical. Yeah, karma's kind of weird. You're
It
like,
definitely is.
weird.
But
This
yeah.
life is kind of weird. In some ways, yeah, it's kind of weird.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of Taoism? Or
Um,
do you have another topic? We still got a few more minutes
I
for
will
a good
say
episode.
Taoism gives a lot of insight if you take it for its merit, right? If you say, if you accept it to be true, if you think Taoist philosophy is true philosophy, right? And there really is yin or yang, and it really does exist in all life, including myself, right? Um, then you can make distinctions about life. You can say things about yang, and you can say things about yin that normally you probably couldn't have said before, maybe. So by that knowledge, you have greater insight to your own being and greater insight into others' beings. Isn't that fun?
Yes. Ooh.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, Taoism is a religion. I forgot about that. Dude, I forgot
Oh,
like all history I learned in school, man.
dang.
All I remember is monotheistic and polytheistic, man. The
Dang.
theocratic and monarchy, like that.
Yeah.
I retain
Well,
some, but not all.
hopefully this has been insightful to give you a little bit more. Now you might know, oh, I'm made of this yin and yang stuff, maybe.
Yeah, definitely look into it for yourself. See if it's something that
Right.
you dig. It's just
Yeah.
it's something that Alex believes. It's something that I can definitely get down with. I wouldn't exactly say like that I am a full believer of it, but I can definitely agree with it. I mean, I definitely
Hmm.
have to look into it a bit more because it's been so long
Hmm.
since I've paid
Hmm.
attention to it. But yeah, the whole concept of yin and yang is very cool itself.
It's pretty fascinating. Well, it's kind of hard to conceptualize because, like, how can you make such a complex idea into something so basic? Is my question. It's like you look at it, right, and you're like,
So the white represents good and the black represents evil, right?
hmm. The traditional person might say the white represents masculine qualities, where the black represents feminine qualities. See, neither good nor bad, but one could interpret it maybe that way.
The balance between
Depends.
darkness and light,
Yeah,
passivity and activity, femininity and masculinity. Essentially,
yeah.
the idea that everything in the universe is made up of these two interconnected forces and maintaining harmony requires a balance between them.
Yeah. So it's not saying that one is good or bad, right? It's just saying that they interact a certain way.
It's just funny. Positive and male are related, but negative and female are
Right.
related. That's all right.
Oh, oh. Spicy debate.
Spicy.
Ah, spicy.
The Bible contradicts yin yang.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does it explain what's up with that?
The Bible teaches that God's holiness is eternal and undivided, and that goodness can exist without evil. Because God is all powerful and all good, which is possible because he's an infinite being beyond our understanding, and he can do everything outside of our logic. He
Right. So
can do anything.
he can do good without evil is what you were saying?
Yes.
Without the
Like,
notion of evil.
because, like, it opens up the debate that a lot of people say, well, God can't be real because you can't be all powerful and all good. It's comparing a circle to a square, but then again, those people don't realize you are literally putting limitations on an infinite being. Our vocabulary is very limited. Our understanding is very limited. An infinite being is beyond all those concepts. So with that being, known for this thing we're talking about, that would mean that, yes, because God is all powerful, yet all good, and he can do that because he is infinite. He can do whatever he wants to do because he can.
I don't see how that contradicts the yin and yang, though.
Well,
are you
because
just saying
yin and yang is saying that there's a balance between good and evil, but the idea with what the Bible says and the Torah is essentially saying that because God is all good, that it's hard to explain. Like, if you go to heaven, there's no evil, right?
Right.
And that with God there is...
He's just pure good.
Yes. God is pure good. However, hang on. Let me look a little bit more. The yin and yang symbol represents the interplay of opposites, such as light and darkness, male, female, and the life and death. In Taoism, the symbol emphasizes the importance of balance and harmony. In the Bible, evil is not required to understand good, and goodness can exist without evil. The Bible teaches that God's holiness is eternal, complete, and undivided.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. I figured out something. So, let's say we go back to the story of the Garden of Eden in Genesis. Okay.
But there are people such as Franklin Yun, where people do interpret Christian beliefs using yin and yang. Because, you can mix religions as much as you want. Really.
So,
you can make new religions. It's probably going to be labeled a cult, but you can start a new religion.
So I wanna make emphasis on Genesis right here.
Just real quick, that's where the flying spaghetti monster comes from.
Yeah.
It's kind of the whole joke that you can just make a religion.
Sure.
That's kind of what it is. It's a joke on
people can make up stuff. Yeah.
And there's real churches. There's real churches. There's real flying spaghetti monster churches. I kind of want to go to one sometime. Just experience the service if they have them. I think that would be fun.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
Genesis.
People can make up religions all the time.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, speaking specifically to Genesis and the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Did you know there was actually 2 trees within the Garden of Eden?
Yes. Yep.
There's one lesser known tree within the Garden.
Yes. There was the tree of knowledge, which was the one that Eve took the apple from. Another interesting tidbit. Apple is just like a translation. I believe in the actual core, it is just a fruit from this tree.
Yeah, generic fruit.
Yeah. It's never it's not explicitly an apple. All right.
Mm-hmm.
The cover of Twilight is wrong.
Yeah.
But continue. Garden of
Eden. Yeah. So God says to Adam and Eve, "Hey, if you eat this fruit stuff over here, you're gonna die. You'll get knowledge, and you'll become sort of like me in some respect." Because he said, if you eat from it, you'll sort of become more godlike. However, at the cost of this knowledge, you're gonna be suffering. You're gonna die.
Yep.
So
because
these humans,
at that point in the Garden of Eden, before that time, it was supposed to just be Adam and Eve forever.
Mm-hmm.
But after eating from this fruit, they learned, I am naked. They were ashamed to show themselves in front of God. So they clothed themselves. And God, he already knew, but like a parent, he was like, all right, I'm going to give you a chance to fess up. He just goes, why are you clothed?
Yeah.
Who said that you needed clothes?
Yeah.
And then they fessed up. And God's like,
Yeah.
all right, so here's what's going to happen.
Mhm.
Eve, children, guess what? That's going to be a painful process for you.
Mhm. Mhm.
Adam,
Yeah.
guess what? You're mortal now.
Yeah.
All humans are now mortal. You're all going to die
Yeah.
one day.
I
Good
know.
job.
Yeah, it's very tragic. Very
Lucifer, come
tragic.
here. Come here. And Lucifer, as a serpent, walks on over. He does walk. He doesn't slithers. He walks. He had legs. He walks on over. And God goes, this creature, you will spend the rest of your days on your stomach.
Mhm.
And that's why snakes don't have legs anymore.
Yeah.
That's
The story of
that's the
snakes.
explanation.
Yeah.
Of course, that whole story can be left up to interpretation. For example,
Absolutely.
when I was
Absolutely.
at summer camp, I was working with a pastor who was the dad of some of my friends, and his belief was that the first sin was sex. That Eve was tempted by the fruit, the seed. She was tempted by a snake. Pee-pee. And like I was like, okay. And then what he said that kind of was like, oh, that kind of makes sense, was that when the angel, I think angel or God came to Mary and said, you are going to you are a virgin and you're going to give birth to Jesus. And it says that Jesus was to be born without sin. And I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. Because I do believe like a lot of the Bible is meant for interpretation, and a lot of it is kind of hyperbole?
Symbolic. Yeah, symbolic or
Symbolic
hyperbole. Yeah.
Metaphor.
Metaphor.
Metaphorical.
Yeah. Yeah. But we can gain information and useful information from metaphors.
Oh, definitely.
So that's one
I
thing
mean,
to
like,
remember. I think some people look at that and they're like, metaphors, but you can learn stuff from that.
And there's themes in the Bible too. I mean, like, kind of a metaphor, a similarity is when God told Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac, and it was like, whoa, dude, whoa, just a prank, man. Here's a sheep. Kill that instead, because he was testing his devotion. But what happens later in the New Testament? God sends his son to die, which is basically the same thing.
Yeah.
But Jesus was also the sheep.
Right.
And he was also why we no longer have to make animalistic sacrifices to God.
Right. Anyway, back to my earlier point of Genesis, right? So, knowledge of good and evil, or the tree of everlasting life was the other tree, the lesser known tree. It also kind of represents God and certain things about that. So, hold on. So another thing I want to call attention to is the metaphor of the division between humanity and God. So in a way, the eating of the fruit itself, the act of this consumption, is itself representative of a division between humanity and the divine.
Yeah, because they went against what God had said.
Right. Now, here's another question for you.
They let temptation win.
If I were to ask you, what is knowledge? Right? What is knowledge? What is the nature of knowledge? What is the essence of knowledge? How does knowledge interact? How can you classify knowledge? What would you call knowledge? Right? I'm curious to hear your interpretation. I'll give you mine.
For me, I think knowledge just kind of comes from, like we looked up a little earlier, interpretation and the memory of it, and founding new ideas and principles and all of that off of it, just based on things that you have learned and have perceived.
Okay.
Personally, I mean, it's really hard to, like, I guess, quantify
Yeah.
knowledge because, like, we don't know how much knowledge there is and how much knowledge a person can really have. I mean, we have estimates of, I guess, like, how much storage our brain has, but I don't think we live long enough to ever reach that capacity.
Sure.
So
Okay.
I don't think knowledge can really be quantified
Sure.
unless you have a, a sort of ability to perceive that, to, like, all right, let's see what all this person knows and how much, they actually know.
Sure.
But I don't think we could ever actually truly know that itself. But knowledge itself is definitely kind of it's definitely, like, more personal, I feel like, because my knowledge and knowledges are different from your knowledge and knowledges.
Sure. Yeah.
Because some of our knowledge is definitely subjective and opinion based, and a lot of the stuff that we know can just be left up to interpretation. Because, like, for, like, I don't like that we keep bringing up religion, but like,
Sure.
people that are religious, they believe that, and therefore, like, in a way, know that to be the truth. That's what they believe to be the truth. And, in religions it says not to doubt, so they don't
Sure.
doubt, which means they essentially know that to be true. But there are, people that aren't religious that, in their own interpretation, know that there is no God.
Okay. Here's another question. Not to make too much of a side tangent, but, like,
Yeah, go for it.
could we perhaps interpret knowledge maybe more in a maybe like a computational sense? So could we maybe imagine, okay, memory, right? So data. So we have data that we record, and we record via senses
But you
or
also have to
in
remember
intake.
that that data of memory can be corrupted
Sure, yeah. Yeah,
because
they
we
can
can
be
misremember
right.
our memories.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So, but I'm saying basically there's like the memory stage where we
Yes.
can collect memory, and that memory can be good or that memory can be corrupt or bad, right? We have to make a decision about that memory and its validity. So there's that. But that implies an interpreter. So we have memory, right? But we also have an interpreter of that memory. So the interpreter looks at the memory and says, okay, this stuff can be good, this stuff can be bad. And it begins to organize this memory in a structured format. So it begins to make sense of the patterns of the memory. And this is what we call an interpreter. It also requires energy and logic to interpret information, right? It takes time and energy to take memory and transform it and to sequence it in a way that's digestible, in a way that makes sense. And I think this is kind of at the core of knowledge. What do you think about this? This kind of more structured way of looking at it?
I think what you're talking about, like, I see what you mean. I don't think it's feasible right now. I think if we develop brain computer interfaces, which is what, I mean, we're kind of doing that right now, which is really cool, because Elon developed what's it called, the Neuralink.
Right. Yeah.
That is a kind of a prototype of a BCI, which is brain computer interface. I think at that point, yes, you are then able to store your knowledge in a digital format, because that's what a BCI would allow you to do. I could, although I think what I would use a BCI for is I can think of a song in my head. Like, I can make just songs in my head. It's something I can do. I don't know if people can do that, but I can just make jams in my head, and I could literally just, all right, I am making a song in my head right now, and boom, now it's on my computer. I can upload it. Or I have a lot of thoughts for a book, but I'm afraid if I start writing it or typing it, these notes down, I'll forget something. Boom, 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 boom. All my thoughts right there. But definitely, because we would be able to do that, I feel like if you think about your memories and the knowledge you know, you could put that into a digital format and be able to have a interpreter look through that, whether it be a group of humans or an AI with a program to do that.
Mm-hmm. Something that makes sense of it, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now, could I also say more simply, even, okay, instead of this notion of memory and an interpreter, I think sort of at the essence or the nature almost of knowledge is one that I imagine it takes something, whatever it is, and it breaks it apart.
Okay.
Maybe not always, but oftentimes it can break it apart to analyze and distinguish elements of the whole, right? That's one element of knowledge. Now, knowledge, I think, also can create what I like to call a barrier or a boundary of this distinctive quality, right? So you got this thing, and around this, it's a bit of knowledge. This is one bit of knowledge. You can create a boundary around this bit of knowledge, right? And that is that thing. And it's distinct in its boundary. So you look at the boundary, and it's kind of like a puzzle piece because it's got distinct qualities, ridges around the boundary. And I think that's sort of the way that knowledge interacts with stuff. So it sort of creates, reinforces, or distinguishes this boundary around given items. Yeah, you could say objects, items, energies, whatever it may be. It surrounds it with a distinguishing barrier, and that is, I think, what knowledge is, or it's what knowledge represents. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That, you have this knowledge, and yeah, there's a distinctive barrier, and that knowledge itself is like its own puzzle piece that you can combine with other puzzle pieces of knowledge to get like a bigger picture of things.
Right, because yeah, you can do synthesis with knowledge. So you have knowledge here and you have knowledge here, and you say, hey, these kind of work together. I can bring these together and make a new whole. Right?
Do you think eventually you could get enough knowledge to fully build this puzzle?
Well, here's the other question. Okay, so
because eventually, if you keep doing this process of trying to connect knowledge, eventually you'll have two conflicting pieces where it's just this piece can't fit anywhere. There's a fallacy. And you can learn from that.
Right. Well, you could also, you can separate the knowledge into further and further distinctions. So you can take knowledge and you can be more and more separating more and more distinctions all the way down the chain until you get just one distinctive quality per bit of knowledge or whatever, right?
Right.
So you can keep dividing it, and so I guess I'm calling to the element of this division element of knowledge, this creating a barrier of knowledge. And sometimes it's useful to create barriers, but other times we create barriers and then barriers can get the best of us, right? So we can clash heads, right? So I know this, no, I know this. This knowledge is true. This knowledge is true. Bah. So in that sense, we can, knowledge can be, it's the double-edged sword, where I kind of embody the knowledge of good and evil, right? The nature of knowledge is one that separates and classifies and distinguishes, right?
Yeah.
So what does God do? He merges. God, he takes distinguished qualities and he has synthesis with everything. So he dissolves their barriers. So what was once barrier is no longer, right? That's how God interacts. You see that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
So
God knows all, so
right, yeah, he's like
he's got
infinite
all the
and
pieces.
he's boundless. It means he is not bound by anything. Boundless,
Yep.
infinite.
He created this universe. He is outside of it. Time does not apply to him.
So by that
is no beginning,
definition,
no end, man. It's crazy.
But by the definition, though, we talked about earlier, that knowledge is something that you can bind. So, knowledge is something that you can compact, and that's finite. That's something you know. But the nature of God, the beyond, now he's infinite, right? So by definition, you cannot really have knowledge of the divine, right? You can, but here's the thing, though. Knowledge itself, the knowledge of good and evil, was maybe our first human thing that divided us between God and humanity. Division, right? We don't want to divide. We want to be unity. We want to have unity with God, right? Think about that one.
I'm just looking because apparently the Garden of Eden no longer exists. The four rivers that branched off the river, leaving Eden. The Tigris-Euphrates River Valley, which, with its remains long ago vanishing. Because I like to think that the Garden of Eden is still here, and there's just an angel with a flaming sword just standing.
That'd be so cool, right? Dude, we should go there. We should go there and be like, let's check this out.
I would also like to check out that one. Where is it? It's a mine. I think it's called like the entrance to hell.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah, spooky. Just like a volcano or something, right?
1971, a Soviet drilling rig accidentally punctured a natural gas cavern.
Yeah, and it's been burning ever since.
Darvaza gas crater.
Yeah.
It's not that. I thought the door to hell. Huh. I thought there was like an actual like mine entrance that was like closed off to the public and stuff. That's like it's the entrance to hell or something.
Hidden behind closed doors.
Yeah. That'd be cool though. We just we're going to hell today, boys.
Dang.
Enter the pit, die.
One last thought to maybe leave it off too. So I think in the Bible it says a couple times that God is love, right? It literally says he is love, right? All those who walk in the path of love walk in the path of God also, right?
Yep.
And those who do not know love do not know God, of course, right? So I think, generally speaking, when I try to think about love as an emotion, well, what's the nature of love? How does it interact? What's the essence of love? How does it move? How does it interact?
I want to ask you a question about that belief real quick, Alex.
Sure.
If you don't mind. So what do you say about serial killers that say they're Christian?
I would say they're misguided. I don't know. They're really not
living in that path of God.
They're not really. Yeah. They're not aligned with God.
That is absence of God.
They may
when you
say
commit
one
those
thing.
acts. Because if
They
you
may
truly believed,
say,
you would not do that.
yeah, if they say one thing but do another, it doesn't align, right?
Nope, that's contradiction.
So your actions have to be one within alignment of God as well, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big thing, absolutely.
Yep. Everyone's a hypocrite.
Yeah.
I get mad on Facebook over idiots all
But
the time. I lose my cool, man.
yeah. But back to the point, I think in love's nature, in love's essence, it is kind of a force of unity. So it takes stuff, distinct things that are distinct, and takes those boundaries around those distinctions, and it merges those things together. You know, to make a strong whole, for things to coalesce and become one, right? I think that's quite beautiful. Where the nature of love, where hate, right? You could say that maybe hate is a divisive force, right? It's one.
I would believe so.
Yeah, I would almost say that it's kind of the opposite of love. Like if I were trying to find something that was the opposite of love, it would probably be hate. And what does hate do? Well, hate, it takes his bias, right? He's like, I'm hate. And he doesn't like this other thing, right? This other guy. So he's just like, bah, and he's clashing against the guy. So in that sense, it's a force of division. It's a force of separation.
Yin yang.
Right. So I can either love someone or I can hate someone.
Right.
You know. If I love them, well, it means that maybe our energies can coalesce, and then the boundary between myself and the other can seamlessly meld away. It can dissolve, right? And then we kind of become one, and we become stronger together, right? But if I hate someone, well, then I'm just going to clash with them because I don't like them, you know, because I think their energy's bad. We're never going to meld. We're never going to conjoin. Right. You know, we're always going to clash, or at least one person's doing the clash. Maybe the other person loves them. I don't know. Yeah. But
and the love we're talking about is like the respectful, compassionate form, not like a romantic kind. Like if I say, like, I love Alex, but that's more of a brotherly love that I have for him.
Yeah. But I would say
because the love I have for Kat is different.
Exactly.
That is romantic.
Yeah. Romantic and platonic. Yeah. So, but essentially, at the essence of love, it's this notion of boundary being dissolved, right? It's what was once separate is no longer separate. They become one and the same, seamless.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a cool bit of knowledge to have. And we always have a choice, you know. And I guess knowledge also is this has a separating ability, but knowledge is not always evil. So knowledge can be used for good purposes. It's just how you use that knowledge, right? Knowledge can dissect, and it's sharp, and it can be good at that. But if used in the wrong context, you know, I can use knowledge to create boundaries around stuff, or I can use knowledge to, you know, do a whole bunch of different things. But if you're knowledgeable, you have to be careful with the knowledge that you have, because
knowledge is power.
Right. It's also in the traditional sense, it can be sort of Luciferian in nature. So by that saying, it can get out of hand if it's not checked. Because again, remember, it separates and distinguishes, right? So if you just keep separating unconsciously and you don't synthesize, you know, well, now you've made the one thing that was once whole into a billion different pieces, and it's now dead and it's destroyed. Well, No, that's not good for life.
No,
That's
no,
not good for stuff.
no.
So knowing when to synthesize, when to say, I have two distinct parts of knowledge, let's synthesize them because they align, because they work together. That is kind of where things begin to align, really,
Oh, yeah,
and
for sure.
the magic happens.
Yeah, that's when
So,
you start getting more grandiose ideas and
yeah,
new bases of understanding.
right, yeah.
All right,
But hopefully, this
Alex.
episode was quite
Yeah,
insightful. Good
yeah.
talk.
Good talk, as always. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching this episode of the Afterburners. Like I said, the next couple Afterburner episodes will be introduced like we're the Afterthoughts. We still are, but it's not an Afterthoughts episode, and it will be labeled as such. Alex, as you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, does have a Gmail account, which I will have below. Snazzyyogi.
Yep.
Yep. 2 Y's. That'll be down there, just in case you need to double check the spelling. I'll also have links to our channels and stuff we might want you to check out down below as well. And yeah, we hope you enjoyed this. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment if you feel inclined to. Alex, anything else?
Yeah, no, thank you for all the viewers watching. Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for the support and your time. So, yeah,
Of course,
wonderful,
yeah.
wonderful.
We do appreciate it, and thank you for it. All right, I guess we'll check you guys next time. See ya.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.